HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
When you rely on the internet for everything, you need speed that can handle anything. Xfinity delivers Wi-Fi speed faster than a gig. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Gig Wi-Fi requires gig speed and compatible X-Fi gateway. Actual speeds vary, not guaranteed.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business, whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing. Guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. How would you like a free trial of audible.com? I thought you would. You can go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, sign up for that free trial, and check out all of the audio content that is available to you. This podcast continues to gain recognition as a great resource for small business owners, sales professionals, and business leaders of all kinds. That is because of the guests. These are people with expertise in particular areas of business, and they join me for a conversation where they share their expertise with all of you. We've been doing this for, I believe we are going on 11 years, and boy, have I been fortunate to talk to some really incredible people. Today's no different. Actually, my guest today, Jo Valdez, is a repeat guest. She was on once before, and I so enjoyed the conversation that invited her to come back. Jill spent 17 years as a full-time executive of a nonprofit corporation. In 2016, she jumped into the for-profit sector and quickly learned that her skills for creating systems and developing people filled a significant void. Jill's passion for helping companies has led her to the launch of Link, which she will explain to us, providing solutions to optimize performance and productivity. Thanks so much for coming back on the podcast, Jill.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking today about how you can get a whole new team without hiring a single person. But my first question is really around this whole thought that people have that they have to start all over again with building a team. Like if they feel like it's not working, their thought is just to scrub the mission and start all over again. And is that really a prevalent thought process, do you think?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm part of a small business group on Facebook, and they were just having this conversation. Somebody had posted about how their team was not working together, and multiple people were saying, oh, well, you just, keep hiring new people, fire the ones who aren't working, and keep hiring new people, and eventually you'll get the team that works. And that's really kind of the mindset, is that, well, it must be something wrong with the people. So I need to just keep looking until I get that perfect employee. So yeah, the idea that a business owner or a manager needs to completely scrub the whole team and start fresh, and that's going to be the magic solution. It's very common. I've heard it quite a lot with people.
Okay, but that isn't really the solution, right?
Oh, no, it's absolutely not. And because what I find and what I'm helping people understand is that, okay, you may start fresh with new people, but look at what hasn't changed. What hasn't changed is the onboarding process. What hasn't changed is the training. What hasn't changed is the culture. What hasn't changed is maybe some of those dysfunctional processes. Just because you change the people, if you're still asking them to do the same thing, then you're going to end up with the same results, right? Like when I talk about that, I think about that, the definition of insanity being doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, it's the same idea. Just because you're starting it with new people doesn't mean that you're starting something different.
And you know what? I think it's so interesting that it feels like there's a disconnect between how companies hire, like what they look for in someone they hire, and then what actually goes on in their business on a day-to-day basis. It feels like those two things aren't necessarily in alignment, which creates some of this problem.
Oh, you're so right. People, they think of what they want, and then two things happen. For one, they don't recruit the actual person that they want. They don't strategize even the ad to be attracting the people that they want. And then they haven't defined, like, what does that person really look like? They should have almost a full picture in their mind of who that person is. What are their attributes? Not in a discriminatory way, but in an understanding of what it takes to be successful in that role. And so what is their personality? What are their strengths? What drives them? When you can answer those questions, then craft the ad to be attractional to those people. And then in the interview and in the pre-interview, have questions that, again, are going to show you the strengths of that person, and then also clearly define if a candidate is not that person, then your question should also clearly make that. Sorry, my mind is totally blank.
Okay.
It should be very clear that
whether
a person is or is not the right person for that hire.
Yeah.
And that's where so much of the problem starts, even on that front end. And then they hire somebody thinking, oh, okay, they've got enough of what I'm looking for, or I think that they've got what I'm looking for. They put them in a role, and then they expect them to behave in a way that they're not training them for, and isn't conducive maybe even to what's really happening within the organization.
Yeah, there's so much in so many organizations, so much disunity, and it feels like disorganization, like,
right.
The company doesn't really have an effective onboarding or training program. I know personally, I've worked in companies where you walk in, they give you maybe one day of training, and somehow you're just supposed to know everything about the company, including the culture.
Right. Yeah. I actually have kind of a checklist for onboarding an employee. And part of it is that when you're doing that initial orientation, you're talking about the culture. Like, and even that means, so, some companies, their culture is, we know that we said that you only put in 8 hours, but we really expect you to put in 9 or 10. We expect you to not take a lunch. We expect you, all these unspokens that are just supposed to be picked up by osmosis. Talk about those things. Talk about what other people on the team are doing. Is it a culture where, yes, you can work through your lunch and then knock off early, or
Right.
actually specifically talk about how the team works together, and how the office, I mean, obviously we're all virtual, so that's a new dynamic, but even with that, there's still, how do we interact, and what is the expectation? That it has to be communicated.
Okay, so that stuff feels like it should be communicated during the interviewing process.
Yes.
So, right? So the person knows really what the expectation is, or what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah. Yep. I have a good friend of mine. She just started with a new company, and she knew enough to ask questions and had a general idea of what the culture would be. And then she talked to somebody who used to work there, and that conversation really solidified some of the things that she suspected, but also just set her up for preparing for really what was next. And she wished that the people doing the interview would have actually talked about it more. It wouldn't have scared her off because of who she is. And who she is exactly what they were looking for, but they should have talked about that beforehand. If somebody doing an interview is afraid that it's going to scare somebody off, then that just means that should be a red flag. That means that they're not the right person.
Yeah, boy, I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my response, that you can't be afraid that it's going to scare someone off, because then they really shouldn't be there. So talk to me some more about the role that management really is playing in all of this.
Yeah, it's difficult to say, but management plays a role in that. There's a lot that they're not aware of, things that they're doing. Like I said at the beginning, I'm talking about onboarding, talking about training. That's all stuff that the management is doing. If they're not aware of how they are interacting with their team, if they're not aware of how they're making their team feel, if they're not aware of how they're actually leading their team, then they're, quite honestly, part of the biggest problem. I was working with a company, and I knew that the manager was the problem. I knew that I didn't want to be the one to say it. And fortunately, in the middle of the training that I was doing, all of a sudden she just looks at me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm the problem." And I was like, "Oh, thank you that she figured that out on her own." But it was so revelatory for her to realize how much of what she was doing that she thought she was doing right. She's not a bad person.
Right.
Managers aren't bad people. They're doing, more than likely, what I've seen with companies is that managers are in the position that they're in because of the fact that they were really good at their job. And so they got this promotion into being a manager and didn't get trained on how to lead people.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're bad people and that they're bad managers. They typically are just untrained.
Yeah, I think that is probably true. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking that I find so many companies implement processes that are well-meaning, that they think are going to help with efficiency, that they think are going to help people navigate not just internally but externally, and
right.
Only to find out that it's either not that useful or not that clear, or
right.
doesn't really, or creates more problems. There's collateral damage from it because it creates more problems than it really solves.
Yes. And what also, my suggestion is, how often do you go in and there's just this huge thick notebook on here's the policies and procedures,
Yeah.
read this and then you'll know everything, when actually there's so many companies I know that could minimize that to like 5 pages if they understood how to communicate with their team. If they
Ah,
learned how to effectively communicate to where their staff understands what they're saying, they could eliminate 90% of what's in that notebook.
wow. So it really does come down to communication.
It's a big piece of it, understanding your team and their personality and how to best communicate with them. And also knowing yourself and your personality and how to best be communicated with, that improves efficiency and effectiveness so much. And again, it's what makes such a big difference in management and in managing a team.
It feels like it takes a lot of insight, like the gal you were talking about who all of a sudden realized she was creating the problem.
Yeah. So for me, because I love this stuff, I don't think that it takes a whole lot. I think it is about being aware, and it takes intentionality about once you are learning those things about yourself, then putting those things into practice and being aware of how you're coming across, aware of how you're
Mm,
communicating, but to actually learn the principles of it and learn the idea that you communicate based on your personality. And especially now in this day and age where there's so much available to people, there's so many tools available to learn about your personality and learn about communication. It's really about whether a manager or a small business owner wants to put in that time.
that's interesting. Yeah, intentionality. I like that. That's a big thing for
Yeah,
sure. Huh. Jill, I'm going to take a quick sponsor break and then I have some more
sure.
questions for you.
Great.
So this podcast is happy to be sponsored by audible.com. I love audible.com, not only for the audiobooks, which there are thousands of titles to choose from, but because of the other content they have, like Audible Originals and Audible Podcasts, guided meditations, news. You can pick the things that you're interested in and get it all in one place. It's crazy, but it's a time saver. And there's just so much really incredible content to choose from that it's amazing. And so I want to share that with all of you by offering you a free trial. You can go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, sign up for that trial, and then do yourself a favor, explore around, do a guided meditation, especially these days. It's pretty valuable. Listen to a couple podcasts, check out the Audible Originals because it's exactly what they are. You're not going to find them anywhere else. And see for yourself how incredible the program is and how valuable. Interested in getting some help with your sales strategy? Pick up a copy of Succeed Without Selling on Amazon, email me your receipt, and I'll send you a link for a complimentary 1-hour strategy call. Today we're speaking with Jill Valdez about getting a new team without a single new hire. I mentioned, we were talking before about internal and external, and I'm curious about how this, building a team or, having a functional team versus a dysfunctional team internally affects a company's clients.
Yeah. They can feel it. Have you ever gone to a company and you're talking to one person, they say one thing, then you end up talking to another person, they'd say something totally different. You've got that miscommunication, you've got disunity in the communication. But even for like these companies where you're going in like a doctor's office or a store or something like that, you can sense it. You can sense it in the atmosphere, and clients feel that tension. Um, Whether you realize it or not, when you're talking to each other, they hear it. So, have you ever been sitting in the doctor's office and they take you back to the back room, and so you're in your room waiting for the doctor to visit, but you can hear the conversation going on in the hallway.
Yeah.
Um, that makes an impact. That affects your clients. That affects the people that you're serving, that you're providing service for. They again, they can sense that. And
Well,
so some of them are like, ooh, I'm not sure that I want to be here.
exactly. And how about I'll tell you, my experience is that for some reason the checkout person thinks that I want to know about their coworkers or about some ridiculous thing that's going on, in their company.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a huge turnoff. And it may be that your customer may come back, but they're not going to be a fan, and they're certainly not going to give you a recommendation.
Exactly. Right. That's right.
And with all that's going on,
Yeah.
businesses today are struggling, and they need people. We need goodness in the world right now. And so companies need to know that they're doing something good for their customers, so that their customers in return will say good things about them.
It's really true. I'll tell you, yesterday I had an experience. I mean, just to really, I guess, highlight this point that maybe especially because of what's going on in the world, and, it's the holidays and COVID and everything's challenging and whatnot. But interestingly, the more engaging and happier the staff is, the more not just enjoyable that experience is, but it stays with you. Like yesterday, I was out shopping, and this woman who worked in the store was hysterical. And, we both had our masks on, but you could tell just with her eyes that she was funny. And she was. And so while I was waiting to pick up an order, she and I were just joking around. I don't know her from Adam, but it was great. It just really felt good. And so then you feel good about the whole place.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Crazy. So talk to me some about what a transition looks like internally. You're not hiring anybody new, but you're changing your team around. And I got to believe that, is not instantaneous.
It is not instantaneous. It certainly takes time, and it takes commitment, and it takes commitment by everybody. It takes commitment by the team members as well as by yourself. Like, you can't just be like, hey guys, we're going to do this, and you're going to be the ones who are expected to learn all of it and change all of it and be that way, but I'm going to keep doing the same thing, right? Because then we just go back to the very beginning and say, this is not going to work. So really, it's taking a look at where your organization's at. Who are you, and what does it take to be an effective organization? So taking a look at your organization chart, and what are the roles, and not looking at who the people are that you already have in those roles, but what are the actual roles? What are, going back to the beginning of our conversation, what is their personality? What are their skills? What are their talents? What are their passions for those roles? And then, excuse me, taking a look at who you then have, and will they fit into those, having them fit into those roles. It's about teaching how to communicate with each other, learning about each other's personality and how to best interact with each other. And then figuring out and working on the development plan to keep people growing and to keep people intentionally working and operating with these thoughts in mind. Excuse me.
So I'm really glad that you said, think about the position and what the characteristics are of the position, the person who needs to be in the position, and then look at who you've got. in the position and make sure there's a fit, that makes me feel that you might discover that you just have someone in the wrong seat.
Yep.
But it's not a matter, right? Not a matter of getting rid of them, it's moving them.
Exactly.
Huh.
This company that I worked with, they had a great staff and 90% of them were in the wrong roles. And so they were miserable. And so then when we started looking at, okay, here's the roles, this is what it takes to get your company strategically set up to be the effective and amazing company that you want them to be. Here's the people that you have them in these roles, but this person, based on their personality, based on their passion, based on their talents, is really going to do better in this role. And so we didn't rearrange the organization chart, which is what so many companies do. We rearranged the people. And we said, you know what? You're going to do better in this role because you are more analytical and you're not really a fan of people and you like working in the back office and you can see all the processes that need to be put into place. And we know that you're going to do it and you're going to do it really well. Well, they thrived in that. All of a sudden, going from being the receptionist to being the back office manager for them was like, you didn't even have to pay them. Like there wasn't even a need for a change of pay. They were so happy. They looked forward to coming into work.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's easy. Well, it's not easy. I shouldn't say that. It sounds easy when you say it, right?
Of course. You just simply do that and wham bam. No.
Right.
Yeah. It takes some adjustment, and that's the thing that both managers and business owners and their team need to realize is that this is going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some adjustment. There's going to be some uncertainty. People are going to be learning stuff new. And so there needs to be a lot of grace and a lot of understanding for the fact that we're trying these things new. But as long as people are continuing to move forward in the new things, then it will work out. And it will come together and click together much quicker than if you continue to try to force things to be the way that they've always been.
Okay, so what do you do if you have someone who doesn't want to go through a change in culture or position or whatever?
And unfortunately, there are some that aren't going to be excited about that and aren't going to want to do it. When that happens, it's really important that you not just look at them and go, you know what, you're not on board, so get out. Find out why. What is going on with inside of them. Use some time to coach them and to talk with them. Again, asking them, what is it about the change that you're apprehensive about? Have you experienced a change like this before and maybe it wasn't a positive experience? Find out why they are not on board. And what you'll find out is most of the time people are just afraid of change. Change is something that we struggle with. We like to have that consistency, and in general, people, for the most part, like to know what's always going to be happening, and they like that knowledge. There's some people who just thrive on change, and like they want everything to change every single day. But for the most part, people are not like that. And so, finding out why, what is it, and helping them alleviate the fears of the change, acknowledging and validating the fact that they're concerned. And that you understand that, and you might even have some concerns yourself about it. It's okay to say that. It doesn't make you a weak leader. It makes you a real leader. And so walking them through the process of change, checking in on them. And one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to say, okay, I'm committed to this and I'll walk through this with you because you're sympathetic and you understand what I'm going through and you're not just, going over my feelings and invalidating them. Or, and I've seen this happen, they're truly just not going to be on board with what's happening, and they will need to leave the company, whether that be something that you initiate. My experience has been, for the most part, that most of them have said, hey, this isn't what I want to be a part of. So I'm going to be looking for another job, or I found another job. Every once in a while, you do have to be the one to say, this is the direction that we're going. We had hoped that you would stay with us and that you would continue to grow with us. It's become very apparent that this isn't something that you want to do. And so we're gonna let you know that this is not a good company fit anymore.
I love that advice. Do you think that, as you were talking about that, I was thinking, I wonder if some people don't believe that the change is going to be, is really going to happen. So what they're feeling is, okay, I'm not going to go through all the energy and whatever it is, because this isn't going to last. Like maybe they've seen it before in the company where they've tried to do something, but they weren't really totally committed to it. So it didn't happen.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, with new books that come out on leadership and with new books that come out on how to do things, there's some companies that every time that there's a new book, they're going to change their strategy. And so their staff, they just have fatigue. They have change fatigue. They're like, oh yeah, this will blow over. We're just going to hold on until the next thing comes into play.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's important to be aware of that. And if you've been that kind of a leader in the past where you've just always been searching, for one, I have to say kudos for searching, but also acknowledge that and just be like, hey, I know that we've done a lot of this stuff in the past. I really do want us to be implementing this. I am committed to this. I'm saying this so that you guys, I give you permission to hold me accountable, that we're all in this together and we are committed to this for the long haul. But people are creatures of habit, and it's very easy to just fall back into old habits.
Yeah. So how do you keep that from happening?
Yeah, it takes intentionality, and it also takes communication. Always reminding the people of what you've done and why you've done it. Remember, we went through that workshop and we learned about communication. We want to do that so that we can keep growing together as a team and keep being the best team possible. You have to just keep that in front of them. Otherwise, they do forget. We're bombarded with stuff all the time, and people easily forget. They only keep in their mind what's important to them. Nowadays, too, you throw in the idea of COVID and how everybody is in so much just survival mode. They're just trying to get their very basic needs met. I mean, I could go into the psychology of it, with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People they're at the very bottom right now. They're just trying to hang on.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot of energy. They don't have a lot of mental capacity to be thinking, okay, we need to keep this new stuff going. And that excitement and enthusiasm, we're living in a day right now where an excitement and enthusiasm is not always easy to keep forefront. So it's the leader's responsibility to continue to keep that vision and purpose in front of his team. And that comes through communication.
Do you think that it feels to me like this whole COVID thing and suddenly people having to work remote has required leaders to really, take a good look at their business and be able to say to themselves, is what was working before when we were together, does that work now that we're not? And are there changes that we need to make?
Yeah. Yep. And, working remotely and managing a virtual team, I could talk to you for a whole nother hour about that. There are ways for leaders to keep their team connected, even though everybody's working from home or working remotely. Again, it goes back to intentionality. It goes back to knowing who your team is. There's some people on their team that they're dying because they miss that interaction with their coworkers so desperately and so badly. And then there's others who are like, oh, this is the best. I love it. I get to get my work done. I don't have to deal with people. And so understanding who your team is, their personality, and then reaching out to them accordingly, validating who they are, and talking and being empathetic about the feelings that they're feeling, for the, that coworker or that team member who is loving working from home, applauding them, saying, I'm glad, I love to see the work that you're getting done. I would imagine that you feel so much more efficient and able to get things done. For the person who's dying and missing the person, set up a Zoom, and have a time where the team is together. Don't make it mandatory, because again, that person who's loving working from home and not having to interact,
Right.
they're not gonna, that for them is going to be a colossal waste of time. But have a time where, hey, I know that we used to get together in the mornings on Mondays and talk about our weekends. Let's take 15 minutes on Monday mornings to have a Zoom where we do that, or something like that.
I like that a lot. I like, it's when you said intention, it's going to take intentionality. That's exactly what I was thinking, that leaders really need to be on the ball with this, really need to be paying attention to each person's needs and how they're faring, and what is really going on internally and in the regular world, because it's a crapshoot, and it changes a lot. Yeah. Wow.
And I can hear right now so many managers and business leaders who are listening going, oh my gosh, I don't have time to do that. Right? Like that could be overwhelming for a person that admittedly is not already doing that. It's really not that time intensive. A quick check-in, a quick check of yourself, of, how are you doing with your team? You can do that realistically in 15 to 20 minutes a day, being able to check in on your team for, those small to mid-sized business owners. It's
Right.
really not that intensive. But like I said, and like you said, it's intentional.
It's intentional. And I think that the more you do it genuinely and intentionally, the greater the benefit of it, and then the easier it is to do moving forward. Right. And the less time it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So talk to me. So tell us what Link is, please.
So Link is a business consulting agency, and we provide solutions for companies to optimize performance and productivity. It is, we're not industry specific, but we are specific on the size of our the companies we work with. So those companies that have like 50 or less employees, those are the people that we love to work with, because they're doing great things. And so often they want the help, they want to get better, and they just simply cannot afford sometimes the very expensive business consulting agencies that are out there. So we help them in 3 different ways, through what's called our Calibrate plan, which is a 6 to 9 month time where we're working together, and we go over a lot of the things that you and I have talked about, learning personality and communication and policies, and kind of some of those structural things. There's also executive coaching that we can provide, that's just one-on-one coaching for a leader who wants to be getting better or wants to overcome the obstacles that are keeping them from being all that they are purposed to be. And then we also help companies with recruiting, in that we will strategically create ads, and then also screen the prospective candidates, and then do pre-interviews.
Wow, that is huge. It sounds really incredibly valuable. And so then how do people find you and Link and,
Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn. And you can also find Link Consulting on LinkedIn. But then if people want, they can go to linkconsulting.info. And so Link Consulting, LANK salespersonconsulting.info.
Awesome.
And they can learn a little bit more about what we're doing. And then also there's opportunity for them to be able to connect with us and talk a little bit more, whether that be a strategy session and just learning more about what's going on in their company and how Link can be a resource for them.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Jill, for coming back on the podcast and sharing all this. I think it's so valuable, and especially given what is going on these days in the world. So thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. It was great to talk with you again.
Oh, absolutely. I always enjoy our conversations. Listeners, thank you. Another great episode for you. And I would like to thank audible.com for providing me with an opportunity to provide you with a free trial by going to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. You can sign up for that free trial and check out all of the great content. And you can get your sales strategy headed in the right direction with Succeed Without Selling, available on Amazon.com and wherever books are sold. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Imagine how fast we could solve the world's biggest problems if more SaaS startups would gain traction sooner. Welcome to the Tech Entrepreneur on a Mission podcast. This podcast is dedicated to sharing experiences from B2B SaaS CEOs who are going above and beyond to deliver change that is noticed. You will hear their secrets and learn what is required to build a SaaS business that the world starts talking about and keeps talking about, and how to overcome the roadblocks to do so.